Shockingly, the Celtics season did not end after losing game one. The Celtics blew out the Sixers in classic Celtics bounce back fashion. All that and more on First to the Floor.
Who was going to be first to the floor here? And it was Marcus Smart, as he usually is.
Brown drives, scoop layup off the glass.
That's not the first time we've seen a superstar in green and white sacrifice the body.
Garnett knocked away.
What is up? Welcome back to another episode of First to the Floor. That's right. Jake is hosting today, so buckle up for a wild ride. I'm joined by Wayne Spooney in absence of our fearless leader, Ben. How are you, mate?
I'm doing good. Always miss Ben, who's like off on vacation or out hanging out with the in-laws or something. But, pretty close game.
Yeah.
But seriously, like I know you're the same way, Jake. Like we're so deranged as Celtics fans that we're up like 25 with 9 minutes left in the game. And I'm still like white knuckling my table. Like, do not fuck this up. Do not fuck this up. You idiots.
Man. The PTSD was strong with Celtics Twitter. Like even me, we went up 18. Yeah. And then that's when everybody started to feel the mix of I should feel comfortable, but this is the worst possible lead, amount of lead that we could have. Yeah. Sixers go on like an immediate 6-0 run, and we're like, here we bloody go. But then it was over. We had PP insertion to start the fourth, which we could get into, but I didn't hate Pritchard as someone that makes them play fast when you've got a 20+ point lead. But we're still here. We're still on planet Earth. The world hasn't ended after James Harden had literally the best game of his entire life. Very different story for James Harden in the Sixers in game two. So we didn't record after game one for a mix of reasons, partly because I think Ben had to just wasn't able to peel himself off the floor in the immediate aftermath. But so now that it's almost unfair that we have the perspective of game one and two. But, the stat going around is home teams that lose game one are now 15-0 in game two. This is just kind of the ebbs and flows of a series. How are you feeling mentally? We're obviously feeling a lot better than after game one.
I was in a dark place. I wrote something for Celtics blog that was basically just a therapy session for me that I put on paper, internet paper. But I think the Celtics even acknowledged they didn't play their best in game one, and it still really took like an all-time, like you said, James Harden's literal best playoff performance of his entire career, taking the worst shots I've ever seen. And people were ragging on Al for that go-ahead three hit with like 8 seconds left. Like Al was on his shooting hand. That was great defense. He just buried it, man. And, part of me is like, we should be up 2-0 right now. But they really did not deserve to win that game with the way they played defense. They were just so soft. They weren't physical. They weren't fighting over screens. And then you look at game two, and from the tip, Jaylen's in James Harden's pocket. The second he literally wins the tip, and Jaylen's picking him up full court. And they're fighting over every screen. They're so physical. They're so locked in. Every switch is crisp. They're taking care of the defensive glass. And it's like, this is the team. This is why we think we can win the championship, because the best version of the Celtics is easily the best team in the league.
Yeah, it's just hard because there's obviously part of this team, and this is what's true of the NBA this year. There are no elite, far and away better teams. Whether it's Denver, who looks like the best team in the West right now, you wouldn't be shocked if either the Lakers or the Warriors were able to beat them, or if Phoenix, is able to. Actually, I would be surprised if Phoenix is able to win that series. But going into this series, I think most people were thinking it was a 6 or 7 game series, and if it's going to be a 6 or 7 game series, there's going to be splits at home.
Yep.
After the Celtics lost game one on TNT, which is a complete mixed bag of nonsense and but actually some good takes from occasionally. And Kenny Smith after game one, because Barkley's like, how do you lose game one? fair assessment. And Kenny was talking about the Rockets championships where they blew multiple 20-point leads like in the finals. Like they lost games throughout that whole run that they're supposed to win. And he was like, the only team that comes to mind, like in the modern era that ran through the playoffs, it's like the KD Warriors.
Yep.
And the Shaq and Kobe Lakers that go 15-1. Outside of that, it just doesn't really happen. Like
Does not
happen.
Teams lose games. Like you just got to go 4-3 every series,
Especially in today's day and age with the 3-point stuff. Like no question, the Celtics did not play good enough defense in game 1. But the Sixers also had an elite shooting night. But yeah, you said the defense. I think that was probably the biggest difference, I think, from game 1 to game 2. Also, the turnovers. Don't actually have the numbers right in front of me, but they had They had 6 turnovers.
Philly had 11.
Yeah. That's the ball game. That's the ball game. That's always been the thing with this team specifically, and basically any team outside of the Warriors a lot of the time. Like they're the only team that seems to be able to get away with turning the ball over. And so they played a lot better defense and they didn't turn the ball over. Now I have a question for you, Spoonie. Is that because Joe Mazzulla gave them a better pep talk in game 2? Or is it because they decided to just didn't turn the ball over and fought over screens? Like there's a bit of a coaching narrative going on at the moment, which Joe's clapping back at a little bit.
Which I love. Yeah.
I also love. Yeah. What are your like coaching wise? What was the difference? Do you think?
I don't think Joe. So I think Joe got it wrong in the first half of game 1. I think that like they were throwing doubles at Harden. I think they felt like, well, nobody else is going to beat us, so let's double Harden, let's trap him. And Melton's hitting everybody. Tobias Harris is hitting threes. Melton's hitting threes. But then we adjusted in the second half. And I actually thought the second half defense was fine. I mean, it wasn't like amazing, but it was good enough to win that game. And they almost did. But the biggest thing with Joe is like everyone hates on it, but he was talking about like the 3-point difference. We didn't shoot enough threes. Well, I got some 3-point stats for you for game 2, Jake. Philly generated 13 wide open threes in game 2. Boston generated 27.
Yeah.
Philly generated 10 open threes in game 2. Boston generated 22. So by my count, that's 49 open or wide open threes that the Celtics generated, and Philly generated 23. And then Philly had 7 tightly contested. Boston only had 2, and neither team took a very tightly contested 3. So, I mean, it's just like indicative of the offense was clicking in game 2 way better. They got really honed in game 1 on like, we got to attack B-ball Paul. We got to get to the rim. And Philly was just letting it fly. And I think that's a losing strategy over a series for Philadelphia, but they stole a game. They got what they needed to get out of the first 2 games, which sucks. But if the series looks anything like game 2, especially with Embiid in the shape he's in, like we might win this in 5, honestly, because the offense, like it was so easy. Like they generated 49 open threes. Like that's an absurd number. And I think that's what Joe is probably preaching is like, don't go to the rim and try to finish over a contest. Just move the ball, kick it. And you saw them in the first half try to challenge Embiid a couple times, and he got some blocks. And then that third quarter, that ball was popping. It was going everywhere. Everybody was wide open at all times, and Philly had absolutely no answer.
Yeah, I think it's always been about the blend. Like people get caught up in Joe saying shoot more threes. Like that's the soundbite. But if you've been paying attention to literally anything all year, it's the right type of threes. It's the drive and kick game. Like when these guys are playing Mazzulla ball, the drive and kick game, that's an absurd number. 49 open or wide open threes. They shot 51. That means 2 of their threes out of 51 were contested, that's the book on this matchup. They cannot contain our perimeter players, and that's literally all of them. Marcus, Derrick,
He was
Malcolm,
great.
yeah. Literally all 5 of our go-to perimeter players can beat these guys off the dribble. And Philadelphia, what they do is notoriously is suck in too much and overhelp. And I think it's good to mix in challenging Embiid at the rim. Like you want to make him work, you want to make him jump, like you want to test that knee. But like you're driving in. I would like to see maybe Jaylen hit him with more of those, like because Jaylen, we're gonna get to Jaylen, but man,
what a game!
What a game! And what he did really well, I thought, was he attacked Embiid, and he's so good at like getting a step and like reaching that right arm out. And Embiid wasn't getting the block as much in the second half, and that led to second chance opportunities. So I think it's still good to attack the rim, make Embiid work.
Definitely.
Yeah, and create some second chance opportunities. But almost Embiid coming back unlocked Missoula ball, because you can't challenge Embiid at the rim like you were with Paul Reed and PJ Tucker at the 5. It's you get the ball moving, and that kind of gets into the weaknesses of Philly's defense. You don't want them moving around. You don't want PJ Tucker having to chase. You don't want Embiid having to chase. He's good when you slow the ball down. And so that, I think, yeah, perfect adjustment. I'm hesitant on the Celtics in 5 stuff, just because the ebbs and flows of this.
I was joking around. Like I got Celtics in 6. Celtics in 6.
I think just knowing the Philly's good enough, and knowing this Celtics team, there's going to be another potential collapse in this one here. But yeah, like if you haven't seen the clips of Joe in his post-game press conference, like the press conference ends and he just says, "No one wants to ask me about my game 2 adjustments," and like death stares the rim.
Yeah.
Beautiful video. Then gets up. And then today he had a follow-up interview where it was like the interview had ended and he had stood up, and you could still hear him on the mic. And he's like, "I guess I'm the worst coach ever." So Joe's apparently hearing everything. And the coach discourse, I mean, it's out of hand, I think.
Yeah.
Like he made a good adjustment. I'm not sure if that was like, we didn't really hear Jaylen decided to pick him up full court, or that was like a coaching adjustment, but like Jaylen got that assignment for the whole game. And that was the most evident assignment and the adjustment. And then leaning into more Grant Williams, I felt like in game 2 was a second adjustment, which I thought both worked really well. But other than that, like it was just fighting over the screens, which I'm pretty sure was part of the game plan in game 1. Like it was just a different level of intensity and coming to the game with a different mentality. Is he getting a little too big for his boots? Ben in the chat. I did see WEEI, shockingly. You don't do this after a game 2 win. Like, what do you want him to do? Just sit? I like it. Like, I like this. The people want to complain about the lack of toughness with Ime going. Like, this is Joe showing his level of toughness, his level of competitiveness, which I like to see.
Yeah, Joe is like, he's a little asshole. Like, and I mean that in the most like complimentary way. He was a water bug at WVU in college. Like he shut down John Wall, and it was all like grit and determination. So yeah, I like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like he's just kind of like, I think he's like, thinks he's being funny and joking around.
Yeah, I don't.
And people, you know what I mean? Like he thinks he's messing around, and people take it super seriously. And he's just kind of like, I'm just joking with these people, and they don't get it. And I understand why, because he does not break at all, ever. But he's clearly presented like jokes in the exact same way. So I think he was kind of joking.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
But he's delivering it like a psychopath.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I love it, man.
Yeah,
Fight back a little bit.
Yeah,
you know, why not?
I think it's good. Like, I think, and honestly, this is definitely going into the realm of the supernatural, but like you want to cultivate some like you versus them mentality. Like you obviously have that with like playing the Sixers. Like you shouldn't need that much extra, but Tatum, you're not the 1A superstar. Joe Mazzulla, why would Brad remove the interim tag? These guys clearly hear it, and like any extra motivation, don't hate it. All right. We've teased this long enough. Well, I'll give you the option. If you had to give a game ball for yesterday's game 2 performance? Who are you giving it 2 spoons?
It's got to be Jaylen. I know, like, Marcus has an argument. Malcolm kind of has an argument, although I think Harden got his ass a couple of times in the first half. But it's got to be Jaylen, dude. Like, basically, his numbers do not reflect how absolutely impactful he was in that game. And oftentimes it's the opposite with Jaylen, where his numbers maybe look a little better than how impactful he was in the game. But, like, that's the best I've seen anyone guard Harden in a very, very long time. And even this version of Harden isn't the same guy, but he's so strong, so crafty that, he still gets guys. And I can remember one like cheapo Harden style foul on Jaylen, but otherwise, like, dude, he was in his pocket. He gave Harden nightmares. I think he was like 3 of 12 or 4 of 12 for the game. And that was all Jaylen Brown bringing it on
2 of 14.
2 of 14. 2 of 14. I was giving him too much credit.
Yeah.
And that was all Jaylen Brown. And the way he navigated screens, it's like he's taking lessons from Marcus Smart, dude. He was slipping past Embiid.
Yeah, and I saw someone honestly, probably was Trey on Twitter, but like the Embiid matchup sets a very different screen to like PJ Tucker and Paul Reed. Like, he's trying to get out of there. He's trying to pop, and he's just trying to like slip into that little mid post range, making it easier to get over and around. Like, it's not really Embiid's. You don't think of him as like a
he doesn't want to take 25 hits. He doesn't want somebody bumping into his abdomen 25 times a game.
The mentality that Jaylen came in with, I think, perfect. Like, this is what you need for this series, what you need for the playoffs. And I feel like Jaylen has been bringing this, maybe not as to the level of last night. Like, this is, the both end stuff. You do not see this very often. Like, top 10 scorer in the NBA, taking, like, he was like Patrick Beverley out there.
Yeah.
Like, you see guys that are like hanging on to their NBA lives, picking up dudes full court. Like, Pritchard, please play me, coach. My only way to provide value is to pick up guys full court. And you add a guy like with Jaylen's athleticism and strength and drive into this specific matchup, because I think with Harden, one, you can wear him down. Let's not forget that he had 9 days off before game 1.
Yeah.
In part in fault of the Celtics. But even still, it would have been like 7 or 6 days off still. He had a massive game 1. He had to do everything. Game 2, I was a disaster. Obviously, the team that's down is going to play harder. There's an element of that. But I think with Harden, you can disengage him. He does not want this smoke for 40 minutes, denying him across the perimeter. Harden is just, you see him just throwing his hands up. Like, I don't trust him for over a 7-game series to handle this level of physicality and like consistent physicality. He might get Jaylen in game 3 or in game 4, but when it gets to game 5, when it gets to game 6, he's going to be sick of it. And this is where the underwater workouts for Jaylen come into play. Like, to do what he was doing on the offensive end, like he was driving the Celtics forward and then there was no let up. It was every possession, out of timeouts, after free throws. Absolutely loved it. And then I think more broadly for Jaylen, he's averaging 26 points a game on like 64.6% true shooting. Like, he's blistering, and this is while shooting 70% from the free throw line.
Classic, which is not bad for him. I'll take it.
I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's
not
just
good, but I'll take it.
Yeah, look, if he's going to be doing everything else, who cares what he's doing at the free throw line? And he made those free throws yesterday. But Jaylen's playoffs, basically from, I forget which game, but like, he's been pretty consistent. He kind of disappeared in game 1, which he can do at times, which I think is on. I'm someone who think that's more on Jaylen than anyone else. Like, if he wants to go get the ball and be aggressive, then that's on the table for him. There's no issues with that. But consistently, I feel like he has been bringing, whether it's the scoring punch, the block on DeJounte Murray down the stretch of game 6 in Atlanta. Oh, don't forget the big 3 he hit against Atlanta as well.
That won us that game.
Yeah,
it did. Yeah, to tie it up.
Jaylen Brown, this is why you feel comfortable giving him the Supermax. Because when you get to the playoffs, what you need is a guy like this that can be an elite scorer in one-on-one matchups, take advantage of mismatches, and then also, when locked in, shut down a player like Harden. Not every game, but you don't need to shut him down every game. If Jaylen can shut him down for just one more game, I mean,
give me 4.
They can. Well, that's the thing. They can win a game where Harden's not going 2 for 14. It's like, you want to limit the games where he's having like the super efficient 30 plus 10 assist games. And that's all you need. And if he's going to keep doing that, then I'd like us in the series.
Yeah. And I really love the adjustment by Mazzulla to put Jaylen on Harden, because Jaylen's big weakness is off ball defense. And Harden doesn't move when he doesn't have the ball. So like, you're playing into Jaylen's strengths by being like, just go be a pit bull on this guy when he's got the ball. And that's not like he's going to backdoor cut you, or run off screens, run off a pin down and catch and shoot on the run or anything like that. It's just absolutely never been his game. Still is not his game. So it was a great adjustment. I wish it came earlier, like at the start of game 1, but that's okay. We found it, and I think we're going to see it for the rest of the series.
Well, what I hope as well is that it should be an example, because honestly, it shouldn't almost need to be an adjustment. This could be Derrick, Marcus, or Jaylen. I do think your point is well taken, though. Like, this is a nice matchup for Jaylen, like limiting his off-ball stuff. Like, who's the most likely person to get beat on a PJ Tucker crash on an offensive rebound? Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
So, put these guys in positions to succeed. I'm sure, maybe there's going to be an adjustment from Philly to try and get Jaylen off him. But again, like, if everybody's locked in on being physical with Harden, like Derrick and Marcus and Jason should be able to bring the same level of physicality. Yep. Yeah, like Thomas Myers in the chat, Jaylen Brown, I think you can easily make the case for him being the MVP of the Celtics so far in the playoffs. It's almost easy to forget, though, like Tatum's game 7 was like game 6, was as complete of a game as you're going to find, like both ends. Like,
and game one he had 39, 14, and 7 or 5 or something ridiculous like that. Yeah. I mean, he was the reason we almost stole that game.
Exactly. So it's easy to forget like how, and that's like, I feel like the story with Tatum sometimes, like it can be held to a different standard.
Yeah.
All right. I'll take the next pick off the board here. I think it's close. I know you mentioned Malcolm got beat by Harden a couple times, but man, when it comes to the playoffs,
bucket getter, dude, buckets. Elite bucket getter, period.
Yeah. And so what do you have yesterday, right? Like, it's 23, 6 and 2 in 24 minutes,
over a point a minute. Pretty good.
Yeah. And like, he's a guy, like, he can just take advantage of so many matchups here. And I love the way, like, Harden and PJ Tucker, to their credit, like, they're not as bad as I think as sometimes you can imagine. I mean, Harden is sometimes not as bad as people imagine. I think PJ Tucker has a pretty good defensive reputation, but with those guys, like, a lot of their perimeter defense is because they're like broad. Like, while Harden, like, you can get past him, he's quite broad and quite strong. So if Harden can get a bump on you, he can kind of like stay with you. But with Brogdon, he's so strong and so good at holding his line that, like, he's able to get past Harden and able to use his speed plus the combination of his strength to get around these guys and create advantages. So I think, like, this series for Brogdon in particular is a really good spot for him, because some of the matchups, like, he can really, really take advantage of. And like, when you talk about these open threes, like, people, they're freaked out about Jaylen, they're freaked out about Jason, and there's just gaps for him, and he can just catch fire.
Well, if Embiid's playing, they have to play drop, and you absolutely just cannot play drop against Malcolm Brogdon. Like, his pull-up 3 is so money. And then when he gets in a rhythm, he had one where he like put it behind his back and then just pulled up like kind of deep, and it was all net. So like, that's kind of an upside of them having Embiid out there, because they're comfortable switching with B-ball Paul. Obviously they're not with Embiid. And when Embiid's just like in that deep, deep drop, like, Brogdon could just absolutely feast. And he did the entire, 23 points in 24 minutes or whatever, 25. I mean, that's absurd. That's a ridiculous output. So, And he doesn't turn it over. He's not turned it over in this series or the
Well.
playoffs. Well, yeah, he had one for maybe the worst turnover I've ever seen ever. But other than that, he really hasn't turned it over. Marcus has been good with the turnovers. Derrick White's always good with the turnovers. So that's a huge thing as well. I mean, really the only guy who's been turnover prone is Jaylen. And, he only had one last night. So Brogdon's been awesome. Not a great matchup with Harden. They kind of do the same thing to each other.
Yeah.
They both can just get the line, get downhill, get fouled, get to the rim. They're fairly similar players in some ways.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Similar builds as well. Yeah. There's these stout dudes. And I think, Malcolm should take that personally. That's a matchup that I think Harden is going to get him at times. And that's as bad as Harden was in this game, he's still creating advantages, and obviously he had game one. Still a good player, going to be borderline All NBA. But you have to win the matchup on the other end. I think when you have to make him work, and Brogdon's the perfect guy for this. You mentioned the turnovers, averaging 0.9 turnovers per game in the playoffs. I just wish that one turnover didn't happen.
I wish it was 0.7 or whatever. Yeah.
Looking at his assist to turnover ratio is 4.43, sixth best in all of the playoffs, and that involves Xavier Tillman, of ball handlers. The only one that he's really behind is Chris Paul and Mike Conley, which
pretty
is
good. Two very careful, safe, elite guards. Yeah.
And so I know that we sometimes don't love Malcolm as a ball mover and as a connector, but in this matchup, I think when turnovers really, they're always important, but in this matchup in particular, you cannot be giving Philadelphia extra possessions. Maxey in transition, is pretty much the only way it feels like he's really going to have he's unstoppable. You just can't let it happen.
So fast, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah. There's not, and we have Marcus and Derrick Marcus and Derrick are some of the best transition defenders out there, and they have no shot at kind of stopping him in transition. I'm hoping that's a reverse jinx, so we got to play in the next game. But I wonder, and we didn't get to see it in this game because it was a blowout. Malcolm was in the game late in game one. Obviously, the infamous turnover. But I do think in this matchup, and not that Marcus and Derrick are turnover happy, but just the way that Malcolm doesn't. There's no turnovers basically when he's on the court. So I wouldn't mind seeing Malcolm's minutes get pushed up a little bit in this matchup. We'll get to Derrick maybe in a little bit, who found himself here, but Malcolm's been playing really well. I like the way that he can impact in a couple ways here.
Yeah, and White's been a little he had a great game too, but he's been pretty unsteady and unsure of himself with the ball. So I'm not sure I would have trusted him in crunch time in game one. So I understand why Joe went to Brogdon, and man, that was a bad turnover, but otherwise you just got to hope on balance. That's why it's a 7-game series and not a 1 game. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, we got to talk about Marcus, dude.
Yeah.
This was the full Marcus Smart, everything good, everything the Marcus Smart defenders talk about. That was this game. He's the primary defender on Joel Embiid for huge swaths of the game, and did a fantastic job getting into his dribble, holding him off his line. And that fall away, I think it was to end the first quarter, that he just banged over Embiid, and I was like, we're winning this game. That was cash, dude. So just an incredible Marcus game in basically every way.
Yeah, he had 2 shots early in the first quarter, late shot clock ones that don't look like they're going anywhere, and of course he hits them.
Dang, yeah.
He had one
horrible pull up.
Awful.
So
just
19 on the shot clock.
We were kind of on a run too.
Yeah.
Or and then I couldn't believe it, honestly. It was
Trae Young shot. The worst things of Trae Young came out in Marcus on that shot. Yeah.
Outside of that one decision, he was fantastic. Yeah. And I know Bill Simmons tweeted at halftime, Marcus Smart 12 field goal attempts in the first half. Jaylen and Jason had, I think it was 12 or something combined. He was 6 for 12 though, and he was getting into the paint. He was making good. It was just a
Tatum
bad
was
time.
like sat
on the
down
bench
for like 12 minutes because of foul trouble. So what are we doing here, Bill?
I know. Yeah, his Celtics stuff is just all over the place at the moment. Like, anyway,
he's like us, dude. He has no rational brain in the playoffs. He doesn't.
I should cut him some slack because we're all on tilt at all times.
Yeah,
it feels like here. But yeah, the dive on PJ Tucker, depending on which fan base you're a part of, was dirty. But then Embiid got him back. Embiid got him back big time. Yeah. And like, there's nothing more Marcus Smart than like going into game 3 of the second round where it's like the injury report is just every body part that Marcus Smart has, and then the word contusion. Shoulder, I think he had a face laceration yesterday, shoulder contusion. He's got he's wearing a chest plate like
he has
Iron
a bruised rib.
Yeah. Like he's obviously got the ankle. Rib. Yeah, the ankle that he's always dealing with. Yeah. And then like as soon as I saw he was questionable, I'm like, there's just no chance that he's missing games really at this point, like unless it's really bad. But yeah, this is when it's this time of year. It's gonna be gritty. It's not gonna be perfect. It's not gonna be beautiful. But Marcus Smart's gonna be putting his body on the line. Like he had that chest injury, and in game 1 he got a tip and then just like flew to the sideline and like saved that person's pizza.
Yeah,
like we're getting and this is like and in game 1 he almost saved the game. Like he was getting offensive rebounds, drop off passes to Al Horford. He was fantastic down the stretch in game 1.
Yes, he was.
I trust Marcus down the stretch. He was just solid. And then we didn't really obviously need him in the second half because it was Brogdon time and Jaylen time.
I felt that it was a shooting clinic. I mean, it was like it's like Philly might as well not have been playing defense. These shots were wide open.
Yeah, like so, he took 14 shots and 12 of those came in the first half, and it felt like you kind of needed them.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of them were in. We like him in that post range and getting to the rim. Like he's able. I trust him at least to look. Buckets can be hard to come by in the playoffs, and Marcus can get you like a pretty quality look down in that just outside the restricted area. He can bang with Harden. I like that he's able to kind of work him down. Maxey, you can obviously take in the post. Melton, you can obviously take in the post. Like there's guys that you feel comfortable with him attacking. And the reality is defenses are going to load up on Jaylen, on Jason, on Malcolm. They're going to be covering Al's pop shot. Like Marcus can't play like Ben Simmons. He has to be aggressive. And that creates and that gets the rest of the offense going. And he knows that, and I trust him. In how many big games does this man
What more do you want from him?
Yeah.
What more do you want from him?
Yeah. And I love him in this matchup. I love what I think his energy is going to be like. Philly in game 3 is going to be intense atmosphere.
Dude, it was insane when I was there for a regular season game in February. So I can't imagine what it's going to be like for game 3, but you just got to quiet the crowd. Honestly, it's weird. I trust this team more on the road than I do at home at this point.
Well, it feels like it gives them extra juice for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know, lots of players and coaches always talk about this. Like, there's no better feeling than going into a crazy atmosphere and shutting the crowd up.
Apparently, Tatum said that last playoffs. He was like, "I love it when I shut a crowd up," or something. You know, I'm paraphrasing, but and
all you can hear is like your bench, like that.
All you can hear is Luke Cornett going.
I got lemon squares for you afterwards, JT. Let's go. Yeah, like I will. As I can't relate at all because
I've never made lemon squares before.
And the largest crowd I've played in front of is definitely not in anywhere close to triple digits, let alone 5 figures. So there is definitely something to this team being good on the road. Like 2 of their 4 wins in the Atlanta series. 2 of their 4. Man, math brain. There we go.
Yeah.
2 of the 4 wins.
The closeout game.
Including the closeout game. Yeah. Like this team
Warriors,
is good on the road.
Like even in the finals, they won 1 game on the road, 1 game at home.
Yeah, so I like these guys on the road, and I like Marcus Smart's ability to like piss the crowd off, to get in people's head, frustrate people on the road. Like you just love him in this spot. One guy, dark horse.
Say it. The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight rises.
Risen?
Oh man,
Grant.
Batman. Oh wow.
I did tweet. Somebody asked me on Twitter, what do I think the game 2 adjustments will be? And I said, I think we'll see some more Grant because he only played 4 minutes in game 1. I didn't think his minutes were bad at all.
No, he just got yanked.
Yeah. And I think Joe probably realized, he even said that, I think, going into game 2. And he was like, I got to give Grant a chance or something to that effect. And dude, did he ever come up huge? Like the fact that he can come out and still bury wide open threes is ridiculous. Like sitting on the bench for as long as he did and still being able to do that. And Harden's a good guard matchup for him. Trey, DeJounte are not. They're just too quick, too nimble. Like he just can't stay in front of those guys.
Well, I talked about the girth. Like Grant has that girth and that sturdiness. Mm-hmm. So and Harden's not as good at creating separation laterally.
Right.
He still has some of that burst, but all you need to do is get like a touch and slow Harden down on the way to the rim. And Grant has some girth, baby.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Grant has some girth, and he's right, able to stick with Harden better. He played, so the minutes are a little skew obviously because of the blowout and because of the Tatum foul trouble. He played 28 minutes overall, but he played 14 in the first half, which is obviously completely different to the game 1. He came into game 3 of the first series after not playing game 1 and 2 and went 4 for 4 from 3. Like it was really impressive. He's shooting 64% from 3 in the playoffs right now. If all he, like, as I said with Marcus, having to take advantage, the defenses are going to shade over, rank the hierarchy as much as you want. Grant's last on the list.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
Even if Pritchard's out there, he might be last. Yeah,
exactly. So, and he's knocked down. In these scenarios. He seems to, he's simplified. He's gone back to playing within himself. I reckon I can count the dribbles he's taken in the playoffs so far on 2 hands.
Yeah.
He's not looking to do anything with the ball outside of shoot or pass.
He had one last night where he pump faked, took a dribble, and was about to take his like shitty like sidestep pull up that almost above the break that never goes down. And then he pump faked again and moved it. And we got an open 3. I think it was like near garbage time, but it just was like, I felt it showed sort of a mature approach from Grant where he's realizing like, this is how I'm a good NBA player, like doing the right thing at all times and not doing too much.
You know what else he didn't do? On one of the most egregious flops you're going to see in an NBA game.
Oh my God. He didn't bitch. He didn't complain. He just gave him a look like, really? Yeah, he didn't complain. That was one of the, I tweeted like, that was embarrassing from Joel. That is not basketball from Joel Embiid, that flop. That was horrible.
And I understand that like there's this, he should fall as opposed to brace himself. Like he didn't need to brace himself. Just stand up, dude.
Yeah.
That was disgusting and embarrassing. Terrible. And it led to 2 free throws, which NBA, take a look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, right.
Like think about
where's the apology tweet like LeBron?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But obviously, so Grant on the offensive end, no bitching to the refs. The defense he played on Embiid, incredible. Yeah, incredible. Good. As good as you can play, and obviously limited Embiid yesterday. But Grant getting into his body, you just leaning on him, fighting, making sure it's difficult for Embiid to get position on entry passes. It was everything. Fronting him, boxing. There was a possession where he boxed him out all the way under the rim, and Embiid's trying to do swim moves to get around him. Grant's got his thick ass just like right into Embiid's groin, and Embiid just can't get through it. And like, and Grant ends up just like, pancaked on the ground. Rebound Celtics. Embiid's under the stanchion in no position to even make a play on the ball. That's all we've ever asked from Grant, and we've been consistent on the podcast. It's not that we don't have faith in Grant's ability to return to form. It's that it's just like right now, he's just not playing within himself.
Playing his game, yeah. He wasn't playing his game.
And this is the dude that we saw in last year's playoffs. 3-and-D.
This is the guy that like it's kind of like ironic because he's like trying to prove himself to make more money in the regular season, where it's like if he just didn't do that, he would have made more money. You know what I mean? So, but if he keeps playing like he did in game 2, like he's gonna get his money. He's gonna get $15 million a year, and he's gonna be worth it. So I'm excited to see how much Grant we get in game 3, assuming Tatum doesn't get in absurd foul trouble again.
Yeah, I would imagine a good chunk in game 3. Like it saves, you can put Grant just on Embiid, and obviously Embiid's going to get his time. Like he's going to hit these absurd, man.
Yeah,
like even on like one leg yesterday, Embiid's hitting some crazy.
He hits
shots,
a 19-foot pull up in your face. Like he hits a 19-foot pull up in your face. Like he's not going to win a playoff series like that.
Yeah, and if he is, then
happen. Yeah, tip your
cap.
Life.
And that's life.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Life,
exactly.
And you needing to stretch Embiid out, and then Grant can obviously,
he's just going to be wide open
yeah.
in that corner too all game long.
Yeah, and he's just comfortable hitting these shots.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of touched on the mistress. I tweeted in the first quarter that I'm starting to get a little worried.
I heard you canceled dinner reservations the other night, Jake.
I know. Look, he's
going to back on.
I'm a busy man. We'll see. I've got a hotel room in Philly on layaway, depending. This is why you bring in Malcolm Brogdon, though, I think, because you haven't felt great about Derrick, I don't think, really, outside of the first 2. No, 3 games in the Atlanta series.
4, yeah.
And to his credit, he ends up having a really big game yesterday. He hit because we never needed him to be a 40% 3-point shooter. We need him to be a confident 35% 3-point shooter. And that's all we really need. And not just that, but like confident going into the lane, hitting the Derrick White floaters. Like there was a play in game 1 where he had Maxey on him, and he just like it kind of looked like Derrick White. He attacked, he did that spin move and got ready to like throw his floater up, but he just like shuffled and fell down. It was just, and he didn't look comfortable. So to see him kind of get his confidence back, get back on track, I think is huge. Because if you have the Derrick White that we have had for the majority of the season, then like we know what that means for this team. But I do feel like we're kind of waiting to see a little bit with the bright lights with Derrick.
Yeah, and I think with good reason, because he really, he did not rise to the moment in the finals last year at all. So great to see him get back on track. I think he hit the biggest shot of the game, where Philly kind of was coming back, and then we had that incredible fast break, and he like rattled home a corner 3. Yeah. Crowd went wild. Philly took a timeout, and it was like never close after that. So those are the type of shots, like they're clutch shots, even though they don't happen in the clutch. You know what I mean? It's like that is a game changer when you make that shot. So great game for Derrick. Looked a lot more confident. Maybe the move is just don't expect him to create on ball this deep into the playoffs anymore, which is fine. He's proven he can shoot well enough that he can play off ball. And he does a really good job on Maxey. He's the only one I truly trust on Maxey because he's the only one quick enough.
Yeah, I think, again, simplify your job. Get back to being confident in your role. Like, just be Derrick White. Just be quick decision maker and be confident in whatever the decision is. Because I trust you to attack the closeout, get a floater up. I trust you to hit the outlet pass, to get over the certain screen, to take the charge, whatever it is. Just be confident. And he had that one play, awful Celtics possession, where the Sixers were like kind of coming back, and he just like took a pull-up 3, and it was an awful possession, but like he can still make those shots.
Oh yeah.
And so having another guy out there that like he can just can kind of bail you out of a possession, whether that's like the herky-jerky floater or the pull-up 3. And I'm sure they're talking to him about it. It's just a little worrying because we've heard a lot about teammates having to encourage him where it's the playoffs, and this is why Marcus Smart will probably remain underrated forever, but like the definition of fearless, like does not care if he's 1 for 10 from 3. He will shoot the 11th one for the game winner, and it could easily go in, but it's the don't be scared. You have to be willing to take these shots in the playoffs.
Nobody has to tell Marcus Smart that.
Yeah, we have the opposite issue with Marcus,
Yeah.
which is quite funny. We have this yin and yang with Derrick and
Yeah.
Marcus.
And then Malcolm's right in the middle. Like,
yeah.
he doesn't really take bad
How?
shots. Yeah.
Right in the middle. Malcolm in the
Oh,
middle. Man.
hey. I wrote about that a while ago.
Yeah.
Tatum, you want to talk Tatum real quick?
Say, yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, man.
No. Yeah, I was say we got a few guys left that we haven't really hit on yet, but Tatum, obviously a weird game. They didn't need him basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, but he was a plus 14 in his minutes. So he was playing defense. I thought he was moving the ball. He still ended up with 7 rebounds and 3 assists and a block. Like, he was kind of a classic Tatum thing where awful shooting, but then was able to impact the game in the minutes that he was out there. But
Tatum was a plus 24. He led the team.
How's that even possible? Yeah.
In 19 minutes. Yeah. I really liked his approach early. Thought he was getting to the rim, moving the ball. The shot wasn't really going down. But yeah, like you said, we didn't really need him. Foul trouble, weird game for him. Not taking anything away from it.
Like the first half, I think is more important, right? So he had 7 points in the game. He had 7, 4, and 3 and a block. And the 2 turnovers were the offensive fouls. So like if that's your first half with the foul trouble, that was fine. And he was in a position to come back in and with 2 more fouls in the fourth quarter if needed. The bonus is we kind of got a Tatum rest game.
Yep.
Which we kind of got a rest everyone game. So okay, Tatum's kind of whatever. I don't know if we don't really need to hit on Al. I just feel like he needs to hit a couple of threes. Yes. He's been off on his 3-pointers since the playoffs started. 29.7% from 3. He shot 8 though. Like I think
keep firing, baby.
In this matchup, you gotta let it fly. And because with the playoffs, like it doesn't matter if Al shoots 25% from 3 in this series. If he shoots 50% from 3 in 2 of those games, we probably win the game.
We're gonna win. Yep. Yeah, we're gonna drag Embiid out of the paint and it's over. Yep.
Yeah. Once you have to respect Horford, like once he catches fire from 3, that game's over. Yep. So hopefully Philly, we know no one gets up for those games more than Al Horford. We like that. So going into the next game, we have a sponsor.
We got a sponsor, baby.
We have sponsor.
Eat your heart out, man.
Thank you to everybody listening. Thank you to everybody watching. This is
thanks to bear with us here. We are sponsored by FanDuel. Make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. I love FanDuel. I love betting. I just hit a big bet on Malcolm Brogdon winning 6th man of the year. So maybe you could do that. Maybe not. Probably next year. Great promotions, great odds, safe and secure app. You get paid instantly, like unlike a lot of other apps out there. There's no better place to bet and for playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/Boston and get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 plus in select states. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, Virginia, or 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700, or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana, gamblinghelpline.ma.org, or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY to 467-369 in New York, 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming, or visit 1800gambler.net in my home state of West Virginia. Thank you, FanDuel. We appreciate you. Go sign up, get a free no sweat bet.
Well done, Spoons. All right. So I like to bet as well. Gamble responsibly.
What do we got? What do we got?
So by the time a lot of people listen to this game will be over. But I want on the record, I like Warriors -6.5 today. The trend of teams losing game 1 and then bouncing back in a big way in game 2 continues. Warriors -6.5. But for the Celtics game, and we're gonna start tracking this. Well, I'm gonna start tracking it for myself. We got a same game parlay for Celtics Sixers. We got Celtics to win. We got Jaylen over 7.5 points in the first quarter, and Tatum with 8 or more rebounds. That's plus 348.
Go get that on FanDuel. Speaking of the next series, Mr. Wayne Spooney, how do we feel about game 3, the rest of the series? I had Celtics to win in that parlay there. What I think makes the most sense to me is that the Celtics win the next game and then Philly evens it up in game 4. That seems like, and game 4, maybe they have a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter that they choke away. Please no, I can't do it. Luckily, we're hey, actually, yeah, real quick, we're gonna be going live on playback for tomorrow night's game 3. So please don't be the game they choke away a 10-point lead.
Yeah, so we will be. Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. We're gonna go live for that game, probably live for game 4 as well. Super exciting. But yeah, how are you feeling about game 3 and the series? I guess,
Jake, we agree too much. So
I know
when I put a prediction down on Twitter after we lost game 1, and I said Celtics 2-3. We lose 4, we win 5-6. Celtics in 6. So, yeah, I feel the same way. I think they'll come out and probably a close win in game 3, close loss in game 4, pound them at home, close win in game 6 is how I feel like the series is going to go.
Is there one thing in particular like you want to see? Like first quarter starts, we're like at the 9-minute mark. It's been 3 minutes in the first quarter. Is there anything in particular like you want to see that we've already seen, but like there's one thing you're like, yes, this at least makes me feel good about our chances to win this game in Philly?
I want to keep seeing us be aggressive and getting to the rim and moving the ball. I just always get like a sick feeling in my stomach when we're taking a lot of bad, like unearned threes and they're going in, because it's just like, oh, they're going to keep doing that. They're not going to have the right process offensively. They're going to fall into that, and eventually it's going to stop working. So that's probably the big thing for me for game 3 is like, if they're playing quick and not even like transition quick, just like quick in the half court, you know what I mean? Like coming off screens with purpose, getting downhill, engaging Embiid, moving the ball, then I got a really good feeling about this series. How about you, Jake?
Yeah. I'm cheating because I'm going to do 2. So if you want to do another one, you turn.
All right, I quit.
I want to see Jaylen on Harden straight up.
Yeah.
I want first possession, because I know Harden pretty well. I think he's wired a certain way. I think if Jaylen's picking him up again full court, I know he's going to be in his head being like, "Oh,
seriously
come
again?
On, man. Come on, dude.
Fuck off."
Yeah.
He's like that annoying dude in pickup who's like
exactly.
a football player but sucks, but he's all over you. Yeah.
Yes. That's what I want to see, and it's pace. The key to me for this series is pace and wearing down Embiid and Harden. Like every single game this goes further, the better I feel about the Celtics. I just do not trust Harden to hold up physically. Embiid, obviously,
he's already breaking down.
Yeah. Okay. So what did you think about Embiid's return? One, did you think it was smart of them to bring him back? How do you think he looked? What do you think he's going to look like going forward?
I don't think it was smart of them to bring him back, because like you stole home court back. That's all you needed to do. And now the Celtics have all this confidence going against you with Joel Embiid playing. And I actually thought he looked better than I thought he would. He didn't, other than that weird trip that he had, like going back on defense after I think he made a shot. Yeah. Otherwise, like, defensively, he seemed the same old Joel Embiid to me. He was challenging everything at the rim. He was, And then offensively, like he had that 1-6 spin off and then like dunk all over us after I think we had kind of built up the lead then. So I didn't think he looked that different. I mean, that was like a pretty standard Embiid against the Celtics game to me in a lot of ways. Obviously he's not 100%, but he looked better than I expected.
Yeah, he definitely looked better than I expected. I've been like sleeper agent in a bunch of live shows and on in Twitter comment spaces. There's a school of thought within Sixers Twitter that whenever Embiid comes back from injury, even if it's like 1 or 2 games off, he's like always rusty in that first game. Yeah. And so from their perspective, it's like we had to get it out of the way. Okay. Like if he's going to come back. So like when if they get him an extra rest, maybe he feels a little better, but there was going to be the rust game regardless. And so they probably lose game 2 and they have to deal with the rust game. It's impossible to know. To know, but like, and then there's this weird stuff like, I was supposed to be out 4 to 6 weeks. Well, he still doesn't look 100% correct to me, obviously.
No.
It's just weird. It's obviously the playoffs. He plays through certain things. He's not exactly like moving around in a large circumference or radius when he's on the court. So like, I was impressed. Like those blocks, I like that. Keep challenging him. Like make him jump, make him get up in the air. You don't like expend that energy. Let's see if that knee can make it through more games. But I would expect a better Embiid in game 3 than what we saw. But yeah,
he's not been that great. Like when he was healthy against Brooklyn, though. Like I wonder if he's kind of just wearing down from the season too. Like he's shooting under. Like even when he was healthy against Brooklyn, he was under 50% from the field, and I think he's shooting like 10% from 3 in the playoffs. So obviously small sample size, but it's not like he was destroying people and then all of a sudden had sort of a mediocre game against the Celtics. Like that's kind of what he looked like against Brooklyn too.
Yeah. I think, and look, obviously a part of it, I think in that series was it was just blind doubles.
They're mugging him.
Blind doubles every possession going after him. So there was an element to that and like the rest of the Sixers getting off. But then from a fitness standpoint, like he just won the MVP. Like he had one of his highest usage, most impactful seasons kind of on both ends. Do we really, and the amount of time that he's had off now where it's like he started running 2 days ago.
His fitness is so fragile, dude.
Yeah.
Like a week off.
Yeah. I was almost like, should we have let the lead get down to like 10 or 15 to get Embiid some more minutes? Should we do?
Don't you play with fire, Jake? You know this team better than that. It'd be a 4-point game before you know it.
He played 27 minutes, and he didn't have to play in the fourth quarter, so you didn't really have to test it too far. But he didn't run until 3 days ago, and I find it hard to believe you're able to maintain like peak MVP level fitness with Joel's history with being able to maintain that kind of stuff, especially when you get to the playoffs. This is why it's all about the pace. All about the physicality and the intensity with this matchup.
Multiple drives, like challenge him, but don't do it the first time. Make him defend, move it, then go at him again. Move it, then go at him a third time, and then challenge him.
What I hope to see, and I think we might see a couple of times. Jaylen challenged him, and I mentioned how like he missed it at the rim, but it led to an offensive rebound. He went to it a couple of times where Jaylen will, he'll go downhill and he'll just like put on the brakes and with that half spin. Fade away, right?
Yeah.
It felt like he was in between wanting to challenge Embiid at the rim and going to that, so he wasn't comfortable getting into that. I think when he watches the film back, because I don't think Embiid's going to want to stop, right?
No.
Like once you get him going in one direction, I think you feel very comfortable just like bang, hit the brakes,
pull back dribble,
which Jaylen's money at. Give him that 12 to 14 footer, and then you have Embiid guessing. Maybe he's not. He's playing you kind of in between stuff. That's something that I'm looking out for in game 2, but there's going to be energy. Like I think he's going to be more hyped up in Philly, front running kind of stuff. So I think you got to stick with it early. I think they're going to come out. There's going to be Melton's going to hit 2 threes, or Maxi's probably the one. Maxi's going to hit like a couple of pull-up threes and something like that. And the crowd's going to go nuts. You just got to stick with it and keep going at him.
Yep. Yeah. Season 6, baby.
Season 6, still feeling good. All right. Yeah. So everybody, we're going live for game 3 tomorrow. We'll probably podcast the day after, and then we'll probably be going live for game 4. And we'll go from there. One game at a time, to quote the great Greeny. Take nothing for granted, but we're racking these wins up. Thanks everybody for stopping by. And in the meantime, go Celtics.